Hello and welcome to Swim Segments. I'm your host, Brandon Oates, also head coach of the Belleville Beast swim team. We have a very exciting show this week. We are bringing Heather Paige Fairley, head age group coach of the Nepean Kanata Barracudas in, along with Melissa Dingle, Beast alumni and current athlete at the University of New Hampshire, as well as Meghan Whittaker, head coach of the Milton Marlins swim team. We have some great interviews with them, so please check those out. Before we go in and check with Coach Neiden, I just want to take this time to send a little message. This week we lost a great coach, Kevin Thorburn, from the Etobicoke swimming family, and just want to say that my heart goes out to his family and all Etobicoke swimmers. To all those people affected by this tragedy, I know it was a shock to the swimming community. Along with Kevin, we also lost Murray Drudge, the former head coach of the North York Aquatic Club earlier this season. Murray was an amazing guy, and we've had lots of inspiring chats over the years. And finally, we also lost longtime coach Elaine Thompson from the Aurelia Channel Cats recently, and she was an amazing lady. Always loved seeing her on deck and sharing photos of my kids to her all the time. So those three coaches we dedicate the show to, and please stay tuned at the end of the show for a very, very special announcement. So without further ado, let's check in with Coach Neiden, see how things are going there. Thanks.
All right. Hey, Neiden, how you doing, buddy?
Good, man. How are things with you?
Good. Been a busy week. So did you catch The Last Dance last week?
I did. Very good. I'm very pumped. I think we have another 10 parts to go, so I'm very excited. Every Monday now, I get to kick back and watch one of the greatest players of all time tell a story, so super awesome.
Yeah, I'm loving it. So this week we have an awesome show. We got Heather Paige Fairley from NKB. We got Melissa, our alumni, coming to us from UNH, as well as Meghan Whittaker from the Milton Marlins swim team. So it's going to be some great interviews.
That's a good lineup. Very nice.
What do you got planned for us this week?
Today, we're just, again, building off dreams, habits, and everything. We're focusing on affirmations. So positive energy, positive thought process to help people kind of go, maintain their goals, go after their goals. But you have to be positive along the way. And we kind of talk a little bit about Michael Jordan. Actually, he comes up briefly in the talk as well. So he inspired me for the affirmation talk this week.
Perfect. Well, it's hard to believe that we're already, almost halfway through this series, let's say, of stuff. So next week we've got some great people coming in for some interviews that we'll talk about later on in the show. But this week we'll get right into it. So let's go watch those interviews.
Sounds good. Let's go.
Welcome to the show, Heather Paige Fairley from the Nepean Kanata Barracudas. Thank you for joining us.
Hello. Glad to be here today.
And you're coming to us from Nepean, and I'm coming to you from Waddell Beach out in Northern California. How have you been coping during this time away from the pool, and what have your NKB swimmers been up to, been stationed at home?
Personally, I've been having a little bit of fun. I get to pull out the teacher in me with my daughter. I always said I would never, ever teach her, and then she's begged a couple times, asked if I would ever come into her classroom, and now I get to teach her all the time. So that's been really fun. She'll wake me up extra early and be like, hey, is it time for school yet? So I can't complain about that. But other than that, just kind of getting myself into a routine, still doing a balance of personal stuff, professional stuff, watching a lot of Harder Dixie, catching up on shows that I never had time for before, and attempting to garden. I've got some living things, some dead things. We're good. We'll get there. Got time to figure it out. The athletes hopefully are doing workouts. We've been sending workouts every day and then challenges every day. So the workouts are obviously physical. And so some of our coaches have done, Tori is amazing with a drone and done some video workouts for the kids to do. But we also have a big program with our seniors giving back that we've been trying to roll into this year. And so they've done some workouts. We have a senior athlete who's into yoga. So she put together a yoga video for the younger athletes to do. And we've created an online a Facebook group that for them to network and keep communication with them. So it's fun. And then with the challenges, it's been any spectrum of things. So we do some mental challenges, some physical challenges. We've gone back to some things our kids have enjoyed during the year, like our senior swimmers, again, they'll put together a video of something they've done and share it with our younger kids. And then with some of the off deck work, like the goal setting, planning, that kind of thing, we've started a lot of dialogues with the kids where like we had some of them send in some of their race plans. We have a little monkey who's literally a monkey we're discovering from his videos that he sent in and sharing with us some of the stuff that he was thinking about.
We're born and raised in Ohio, right? And started your swimming career there and everything. So I wonder if you can tell us a little bit about your time there swimming and what the differences, biggest differences to you are between state swimming and Canadian swimming.
So swimming for me, I started swimming in Ohio, like you said. I fell in love with the sport because something actually that's very missing here, I've heard Montreal might have something that's a little bit like it, is we have a lot of summer leagues and neighborhood or local community races and leagues. So I just remember, like, my first swim team was every summer morning we'd go swim for an hour, and then every Tuesday and Thursday we had a meet. And if you always wanted your Thursday meets to be away because you always went out for ice cream with the team afterwards. And so you always had events like that. And it was a large network of local small communities that did it. And it's a great way for kids to fall in love with the sport. It's actually a really big family event. I'm sure for some of the moms, it was a great socializing event as well. They were quite enjoying the sidelines. But from there, I did start club swimming when I was in grade 1. And then I think a big part of what shaped me growing up with swimming was my coach, Charlie, who I still keep in touch with now. He was a little bit of an anomaly in that he had a huge emphasis on the quality of our swimming and the quality of what we were doing. I was still on the tail end of the generation where garbage yardage was a thing, and he was different. He was an anomaly in that sense. And I think it definitely shaped, my love of the sport and wanting to stay. Like, the teenage years are never easy, but having that good coach, having that good relationship, having that sense of community around the team made the difference. But also, I think, making me into a good swimmer. And another piece I think that shaped me swimming wise that goes right back to Charlie is that he fully believed that you needed to be able to do everything. You didn't specialize in doing anything like that. He made sure he trained you all around. And so I don't think I realized it at the time, but it definitely shaped me as an athlete, shapes me as a coach for sure. And the story I love telling about it is that in university, I went on to swim D1 at Boston College. And in university, my senior year, we had a hole in our distance program, and I'd always done the distance free and backstroke. We just had a gap. We lost a lot of points in that. So my coach said, "Hey, what do you think about trying to train distance? Go after the races, the 5 and the 1,000, comparable to our 4 and 8. It was yards, those silly Americans." And I said, sure. Didn't really think I had a choice, but it was really kind of fun to have like PBs of over a minute when you're 17 years into your career. So, but I know I was 4 years removed from working with Charlie on a daily basis, but the fact that he would spend all that time, that emphasis in the core of his programming of you need to be an all-around athlete, you need to be able to do all these pieces and not specializing, made that possible. Then you said biggest differences. One is that community network. I really wish that was here because it's like, especially for the early years of swimming and falling in love in the sport, but also high school swimming. I don't know what it's like in other cities, but in Ottawa, there's a big distinction between high school swimming and club swimming. Like, high school swimming isn't a thing here. And so we had all these rules around like switching between club swimming and high school swimming. And pretty much my entire high school team was part of my club team, and but we would stop club swimming in order to do high school swimming. And it was a full regimen, full set of meets. And it was kind of cool because you had that whole mindset of, like you see it in the movies and like you see like Friday Night Lights and how the whole school rally around a sport. Well, that really does happen. I still have memories of like when we had sports rallies and the whole swim team was pulled down on the gymnasium floor, and that whole sense of community and going off to state and the banners and the signs and neighborhood yards and things like that. So having that culture and that excitement around it and having that community pride again, we would head off to dual meets against local high schools and it'd be on the evening news or whatever the case would mean. And so it wasn't just you showed up, you went, your friends asked you, oh, did you win your competition? No, they knew what something was. They knew what a meet was. And it was part of it. It was a fun, energetic atmosphere. Whereas here, I feel like, I think you have one or two meets. A lot of club swimmers don't do it. And there's not a lot of depth in the competition too. And there's not a whole environment around it until you get into the university level.
Talking about coaching itself, so in a few short words, can you describe your approach to coaching and what are some of your tactics that you can help build relationships and stuff with swimmers?
So it goes back to what I was saying before. As far as in the pool, it's quality first, making sure they're learning the skills, learning the foundational pieces, and building progressions up from there. But for any of that to happen, the kids have to love the sport first. And at the heart of anything is that the kids will always swim faster when they're having fun. They'll also be more engaged in the sport or engaged in a set or engaged in anything related to swimming if they're having fun. So making sure that it's a social process, it's a fun process where they're learning and remembering that they're a person first and then an athlete, and building those relationships, getting to know them. You say talking about what are some of the tactics with that. A big piece at NKD and for me personally is that we have our swim families, what we keep saying, and it's the idea that with the kids, you learn some of their personal interests, you learn some of their outside things, and you bring them to the pool, and you find some of the hooks and the games and the activities that they like, and you build that into what you're trying to accomplish in the pool as well. And build forward from that. So, and it's nice because I work with our pre-com program. I'm our program coordinator for junior Barracudas. So a lot of these kids, I meet them when they're 5, 6, 7 years old, and then I get to know their families over the years. And then when I'm working directly with them and as an athlete, they're 11, 12, 13 years old. And by that point, I've, been through the birth of their younger siblings or, when they've gotten their pets and things like that. And so you get to know them, you get to know their families, and you bring that personal touch to everything you do. So I think about I'm trying to think of some examples. I have my fly boys the past couple of years, where you learn their personalities and how you get them to dig into sets and they work off of each other. And then we have games and we do things like fin relays, where there's this whole bracket system like March Madness, and we always do it. We're ending up in March along those lines. But they're working on sets and skills like the underwaters and things like that. And they don't realize it as they're building on to that. And then you give opportunities through those games to incorporate leadership roles. And there are kids who are more tailored to that. So I kind of push them into that position in the set, and it gives them the idea to capitalize, but then they also pull people along. But a lot of that is only possible because I've gotten to know them first, or gotten to know their interests first, and been able to build those aspects of their personality alongside what I want them to accomplish in the water.
Well, I think this next question really goes, can be tied into exactly what you just talked about. So maybe we'll focus on the performance side. But for years, NKB's had consistent age group swimmers at the highest levels and ranked high amongst Canada's best. What is the team's philosophy towards creating a balance between that fun, exciting atmosphere that you were talking about and that hard work, high performance? So maybe that environment that you guys create there, yes, is fun, but it's so competitive. So maybe you can kind of touch more on that side of things, like how you guys just make sure that you get the best of the athletes.
They're having fun, and when they're having fun, we are able to get them to work harder. We're able to get them to dig into sets. We're able to get them to push past their comfort zone. So it really is one leads to the other. They happen together. So instead of just saying, okay, we're going to do 8:25 sprint on a whatever the rest ratio is or something like that, I'll play a game like swim tac-toe, where they have to sprint across the pool, hop out and place a piece on a tic-tac-toe board, and then they have to sprint back So you're working on the performance inside of something that's fun and it's engaging. And then of course there's always that balance of like, you've just got to do sets. You've just got to do some hard work, and particularly as they get a little bit older. And so a big piece there to keep that team environment there and that mentality of you're working together is that you either issue the challenge as a group and you look at the levels and the stepping stones for each individual and the whole group, and you celebrate all those interim pieces. And find ways to say, okay, so we're going to do, I had this set of 15 100 or 10 100s that progresses to 15 100s. And so it's, not just can you make them, can you not on the send off. It's like, okay, so here's step one, here's step two. When you've accomplished this, you can get to there. And again, it's celebrating all those pieces, not saying, oh, I can't do it. And the kid constantly feeling like they failed the set or failed to send off. It's, nope, you've accomplished this. Awesome. Here's the next step. You've accomplished this. And they're all doing it side by side in the pool, tailored to what they need to do. And regardless of what they're doing, it comes back to, we want to make sure that they're pushing forward, they're feeling challenged, and they've got the confidence as they do it. So when they hit those setbacks or get stuck in a loop and ready to move forward, we've built that love of the sport. We've built that self-confidence and self-awareness that, okay, I can persevere and I can keep moving and I'll eventually get to whatever my next step or my next goal is. Whether it's a standard or not, that's really not part of our conversations, because what becomes between here and there is always what's mattering.
Well, last question for you. So once we get that opportunity to get back in the pool, are there any things that you're going to do to re-engage the athletes in some new manner of some kind? And, between that time and now, what can you recommend for all swimmers who are waiting eagerly to get back in the pool?
Personally, I'd say the biggest things I'm doing, if Swim Canada's listening, I'm working on my next NCCP level, but on a more valuable level to me is finding ways to kind of freshen up the fun, freshen up what I was working on with the kids. I never want it to go stale. So I've had some time to research. I never seem to have enough time during when we're in the water and practices and meets and all that, just to find ways to freshen up the fun, new ways to interject energy into practices. There's a lot of resources. They seem to be multiplying exponentially daily who's out there putting resources. So just trying to stay on that and be ready to take that back to the pool and keep the excitement high. And then also this year, there was a lot of different things that I was trying. I was seeing a lot of positive results, like new things in our training regimens, and kids were hitting benchmarks and stepping stones earlier in the season. Not necessarily performance, but more training benchmarks and step stones. And they were willing to dig in a little deeper. So I'm really excited to get back to the pool and try to continue those. I don't think I'll necessarily be able to continue from where we were, but to put them in place with the start of the next round of training in the next season, unfortunately. I hope it's not next season before we get in, but it'll probably be that. But the biggest thing I'd say until we get there is the idea of finding the positive and enjoying the family time. I think one of our families, the LaBelle family, said it best, where the son is on the team and the dad is now working from home. And so they decided at the onset of this that they're going to do their workouts every morning together. They get up, they do it. We have our network on Facebook and stuff, and they're usually the first ones to post every morning. And the dad said it best when he said, like, I never, ever would have been able to do this with him in any other circumstances. And it's so buried, but this is a positive thing that's coming out of this, that I get to do this with my son. I get to do this with my family every day, get up, start my day. And it's been kind of cool because as we're 5 weeks in now, and as they're doing their posts and they're making their comments about it, you can see other families and other athletes are like, oh, that's awesome. You know what? Like, we're going to try doing it. Oh, it's made a difference for our family. One mom has a kid who is just full of beans, and she's like, actually, if we work out first thing in the morning, it makes the rest of the day easier. So it's been great to see that contagiousness of finding the positive inside of a pretty crummy situation at times. So continuing to find that positive is what I would recommend.
So thank you, and stay safe and be good. And I'm looking forward to seeing you back out on deck soon enough.
Agreed. It will be great to see all the kids and the coaches back on deck.
Okay. Thanks, Heather. Take care.
Bye.
Hello, Beast Swimmers. This is Coach Knighton again for another segment of It's Go Time in the Off Time. I hope everybody's doing well. Everybody's kicking butt on the 2K running challenge, which is great to see. I hope everybody's still attending Kristen's workouts, and you guys are enjoying a lot of these swim segments that Brandon's been so nice to be able to put these on. One of the things I want to go over today, this is a topic, we've talked about dreams, we've talked about goals and habits, is going to be affirmations, okay? Affirmations are basically those positive things you might say to yourself in the water before things like, let's go, I got this, I can do this, let's go, kind of. You can sometimes people say this before they get into the race, other people say it when they're in the middle of the race, like, let's go get that guy, I can do this, fast flip turn. It's basically things you tell yourself to do along the way. The reason why I wanted to bring this up to you today is because sports like swimming, cycling, longevity kind of sports, when you're doing the same thing over and over again, there's a lot of opportunity for you to be thinking about things in your head all the time. I remember when I swam, sometimes I would go whole practices and I'd just be singing or thinking about movies and what I'm doing this weekend, and I wouldn't be actually focusing on my actual practice, okay? When the negative thing is when that tends to happen is I'm not working on my goals of trying to accomplish something. I'm not focusing on my stroke count. I'm not working on new habits that I'm trying to teach myself along the ways. I kind of get lost. So affirmations are one of those things. They're kind of like little mantras along the way where you just have to kind of, you have to kind of get yourself going in the right direction again. I know when we're doing, 10 times 100 or 4 times 400 sets, you kind of just get lost along the way. But these are important things that in the middle of the 400, when you're kind of just realizing you're singing to a Drake song or something, that you just say, hey, wait a second, I gotta focus. And you might have to even use a mantra saying, stop, reset. I used to say something, reset. When I said that word, I would start saying, okay, now I'm going to focus on my streamline, my flip turns, and start working on some of the habits that I've been trying to do. One of the reasons why I wanted to talk about affirmations today was actually because I was watching the documentary series, The Last Dance with Michael Jordan, as I know Coach Oates was as well. And there was a scene in the movie, in the mini-series that really kind of got to me. Just because a lot of the swimmers that I kind of teach, sometimes we have just bad days, they're just not into it, it's a bad mindset, and so a negative mindset can actually go with you for the next week or two. If you're just not feeling it, if you're sick, if you're recovering from an injury, it takes a long time to get it back into it, and then all of a sudden you've created a habit of, I can't do this, or I'm too injured, and all this kind of stuff happens. There's one scene in the movie where it was Michael Jordan's, I believe it was his first year, he just joined the Bulls, he was a new player, he was still trying to let everybody know that he was the best player. The Bulls at that time were not a good basketball team. And what happened was they were playing a team, the Milwaukee Bucks, who were one of the rivals at the time. And what happened was, I believe they were going into the fourth quarter. The Bulls were down by 9. The Chicago Bulls up until this point was not really a big deal team. People weren't afraid of them. They just weren't really a good franchise. They finally got Michael Jordan, who they thought might become a decent player. And all the players at that point, they were down by 9 points going to the fourth quarter. The league was a little bit different where points don't transition back and forth as much as they used to. And all the players were basically like, it's over. Let's just already... they were going through some of their affirmations and habits saying, okay, on to the next. We already gave up on it. And what happened was Michael Jordan looked around everybody and said, guys, let's go. We can still win this game. What's going on? The coach saw that attitude. Michael Jordan had all these positive affirmations. We can do this. Let's go. Let's work together. We can get this W. All of a sudden, the coach started putting Michael back into the game a lot more, gave him the ball because he's the one that wanted to do it. He got all his teammates involved. Long story short, they came back and they won the game. From then on, the culture of that entire NBA team and the Chicago Bulls changed. Fans started coming to the game. The team started to win games that they were about to lose. They started to win all over again. And that whole legacy in the Chicago Bulls and Michael Jordan's stardom basically happened. And that's basically what affirmations is. I don't want to talk too much about basketball, but that's what it is. It's a mindset and being positive along the way. Are those little things that can really change how you swim, how you train, how you create your habits, how you attain your goals. Being positive, believing in yourself, especially when you're down, are very important things. Affirmations, like I said, just to give you a couple of examples, is, why not us? I think we spoke about that yesterday. I want to do this for love. Next play. I've got this. That's kind of one of my mantras, was always, I've got this. I can do this. I can definitely win. You got to change your mental state in order to be successful. And like I said, in swimming, when you're doing those long sets and you're forgetting about it, try to have something like a little reset or some kind of key word that kind of gets you back on track really quick to let you know, okay, I need to focus on stuff. Again, the quicker you focus on your habits, the quicker you'll be able to attain your goals. The quicker you get your goals, you'll eventually get to those opportunities of attaining some of your dreams that you set years and years ago. So be positive. Keep your positive affirmations going. I might talk a bit more about this in the weeks to come because it is important, but I know this is a long segment. So hope everybody's doing well. I will see you guys next week. Take care. Bye.
And welcome to the show, Melissa Dingle.
Hello, everyone.
From the University of New Hampshire Wildcats.
Happy to be here.
All right, these kids wanted to say hello, so you got to get in, or the virtual background is gone. Look up here, Greg. Say hi, buddy. Oh, dripping water on me. Thanks, man.
I see quarantine's treating you all well.
No, she's getting a little bored now. Yeah, I'll get that. Don't worry about it.
I'm bored too.
All right, you guys, get in close to the camera and wave to Melissa. Say bye. Look up, Grady.
Bye. Bye.
Okay, get out of here, guys. All right. So, yeah, I'm coming to you from virtual Pfeiffer Beach in San Francisco. We went and visited some beaches. We were at Far Westerns last year. So you're at home here now?
Yeah, I'm at home in Brighton right now. It's actually the longest time I've been at home in probably 2 years. So this is an adjustment for sure.
All right, well, let's get right to it. So, how you been holding up? Are you glad to be back in Brighton? And anything you're missing from New Hampshire?
I mean, happy to be home, happy to see my family, obviously, and glad to be here and help out and be with them during this very uncertain time. But there is definitely a bunch of things that I miss about being at school because, this is the fun time of being at school. The season's over. It's time to bond with the team. It's time to focus on your studies and really hammer down for the end of the year and have a good spring. So that's definitely kind of sad. But other than that, I think the only thing that I'm kind of upset about is just not having access to a pool or having a complete set schedule right now. That's probably one of the hardest things.
Yeah, well, that's something that I'm going to ask you about actually later. What was the largest learning curve when you went to the States to swim NCAAs? I
mean, the learning curve in school definitely was a little different because in Canada, I found that getting an 80, getting it in the 80s was fine. I was always okay with my grades and stuff. But when I got to school, the grades were if you don't get 100 or if you don't get in the 90s, it's not good enough. You want to get an A is type of thing, kind of having above a 3.5 is basically just having an A in every class. So that was kind of a challenge for me because I'd never had that before. And people were kind of why do you have an 82? Why do you have a B-? And I was oh, well, I always had that kind of grade. So that was probably the hardest thing for school. And then for swimming, I'd say the biggest difference was just how much time you spend with your team. Because when you're in club, you kind of you train with your team and you hang out with your team on the weekends. But when you're at school, you're probably not with majority of your team. Whereas at school now, your school and your team are the same thing. So you're constantly with them. Not only are you with them at school, but you're also living with them too. So it's a big adjustment of just constantly being surrounded by the same people and learning to work with them. It's kind of like having a family and learning to spend 99% of your time with them.
All right. Well, describe a typical day in Division I swimming, and what experiences have you had there that you think the athletes should be aware of?
So a typical day, I'll do a double. So in Division I swimming, we do doubles still, and usually in the morning, our doubles start at 5:45, and then we go till 7:45. And we don't actually start in the water at UNH. We start with some running. which I'm not very good at, but we've worked on it. So we get up and we go for a run for probably about 3 miles or so in the morning. And then we hop in the water and we swim for about an hour to an hour and 20 minutes. And then it's just kind of like a get in, loosen up, and get ready for the afternoon. And then you'll go to the dining hall, and then you'll eat breakfast, and then go to class and have your classes, and then go back for lunch. And then you'll head back over to the pool again, do some homework in the student academic center, and then you'll head down to practice and have practice for 2 hours. And then if you're injured or need some treatment, you can go down to the training room. And then that's like 5 o'clock now, I want to say. So then you go to dinner, and then you do homework all night. And then you wake up and you repeat the process over again.
So any like special experience or anything that you've had there that you think that wasn't expected?
Something that was like a special experience that I kind of realized was like definitely learning that you have more time to yourself, but it's how you manage your time. Because like when you're on Beast or when you're in club swimming, you definitely have like a very strict schedule. You don't have like a lot of wiggle room. Like you're going to school for 8 hours and you have practice till like 8 o'clock at night. You're not getting home till 9. Like it's definitely a lot different than that. It's learning to like take an hour of your time. Like if you have an hour of free time, completely dedicate that to studying while you can. Like use your time wisely, I think was the biggest learning thing or the biggest experience that I went through freshman year. Because like at first I would just be like, oh, I have 3 hours of free time. Like I'll go take a nap or I'll go do something fun. But then I had to learn very quickly that you have to start doing your homework when you can. So that was probably one thing that I learned very quickly and was an experience. Also the training room, going to the training room. Your coaches aren't going to tell you to go. If you're injured, you have to fend for yourself and get down there. So that's a big thing, is managing your injuries and stretching and rolling out before practice and doing activation, which I'm sure Brandon's really happy to hear me say finally.
That's awesome. Well, you just finished your junior year, right?
Yeah.
So you got one more year, senior year going into that. What's your mindset now that trials have been pushed back into 2021? And I guess, so how are you looking forward to next year, as well as what will you be doing like in this period? You're blessed to have like a pool in your backyard and live on the bay.
Looking at it right now.
Are you going to get in and do anything or take advantage of that to get a jump on the competition in the spring and summer?
Yeah, so I actually just finished talking with my dad about, because he has a wetsuit, and so the lake's really cold right now and the pool's not open yet. So I've been talking to my mom about opening up the pool for me, but that's like a lot of work and no one really wants to do it right now. So I've been talking to my dad about using his wetsuit and hopping in the lake a little bit, because definitely I haven't swam since February 16th now. So this is like the longest I've ever been out of a pool in my life. Since I was 12, and it's not fun. I never thought I would say it, but I do miss being able to go to practice. I never thought that those words would come out of my mouth, but I do miss practicing, and I miss swimming a lot right now. And it's amazing how when something gets taken away and it's out of your control, that you realize how much you actually miss it and enjoy it. So that's something I've been learning right now. But yeah, so plans for next season, I really want to get a head start on the competition this year, and I'm planning on training over the summer, either depending on what happens with the coronavirus. If I am able to, I plan to go down and train with my coach in Durham, and then probably compete at New England Senior Championships, and then maybe compete at New England Sectionals, which are 2 USA Swimming meets. But since they've been canceled as of right now, or postponed or put on pause right now at least, I don't know what's going to happen there. And with Swimming Canada, I've heard that like I know it's all been canceled as of right now, but it might come back on. I have no idea. So if I'm stuck in Canada, then I will be training here, and I will be training hopefully with Beast over the summer if you'll have me back. And then, but yeah, it's definitely going to be hard to get back into the groove after 2 months off, but we've been working out and doing what we can, and I've been running and lifting weights in my house as much as possible. So as for Olympic trials, I plan to compete after conference, hopefully, if I get given the opportunity to. And if conference goes as planned, I plan to aim to make Olympic trials this summer or in the spring next year to go to Olympic trials. I would really like to go. I actually haven't been yet. And I think this season when I was asked to go and I didn't because I had some other things going on, I think that this whole coronavirus thing happening and the Olympics actually getting postponed was someone's way of saying you need to go to this. Someone's telling me that I have to go. So I'm going to take my opportunities when I can and probably go. That's at least the plan right now.
Perfect. Well, I think everything that you've got going on now that you've been through, it's all amazing where you're going. UNH seems like a perfect fit for you. So everything that's happened over the last few years has been good, and I think next season could be an amazing thing, especially for senior year. Let's go back a little bit. So what are some of the things that happened with Beast or anything that are like takeaways for you that, you know, kind of allowed you to become the person and swimmer that you are? And in addition to that, what can you offer to the younger Beast swimmers in Ontario and across Canada that, you know, coming up through a swim program, what it did for you as a person?
You know, growing up with, like, because I'm from Brighton, I'm not in Belleville, but growing up in Brighton and growing up in like a community like this and having the high school that I did, I always felt as a kid that I was like missing out on something in high school, or like I was in school dance for a swim meet or something. But looking back on that now, I wasn't missing out at all. Like, as much as you say, or as much as someone might say they think they miss out because of swimming, like, just know when you look back on those memories, you're going to be happy that you went to that swim meet, and you're going to be proud of yourself in the end. And I think that was one thing that I struggled with a lot, and probably grade 11 and grade 12 especially, is finding that proper balance. And now looking back and now looking back on it, I'm glad that Brandon and my mom and everyone kind of pushed me to where I am today, because if it weren't for them, I really wouldn't be here talking to you guys about UNH swimming and diving at all. But yeah, that's definitely one thing, is listen to your coaches, listen to your parents, like listen to Brandon. If he's telling you you've got a shot at going somewhere, if he's telling you that kind of stuff, you got to listen, because take full advantage of those opportunities, because I'm living a great life, and I'm so thankful for everyone that pushed me to do what I'm doing now, because if it weren't for them, I wouldn't be here. So.
Well, I think that's perfect. That's what we wanted to hear. I think our swimmers can gain a lot of insight from listening to you, and hopefully you sharing that, you know, maybe some of the struggles through high school and stuff too. You know, you're not necessarily right, although you might think you are at the time. So, you know, that I think can go a long way. But I appreciate that. I appreciate your time here. This is awesome. This is exactly the content we're looking for to supply our team with. So thank you so much. And,
no problem.
And we will definitely have a spot for you in the water come summertime, because we would love to have you in training with the kids. So
well, I definitely will be around.
All right. Well, thanks, Melissa. Take care.
No problem. Bye-bye.
How was that?
Cold! Go get your bathrobes on. No, I gotta go do the workout. In your bathing suit? Yeah, I'm doing it.
Welcome to the show, Meghan Whittaker from the Milton Marlin swim team. So thank you very much for joining us.
Yeah, for sure.
So how are you holding up, and what have you been able to do during your time away from the pool in Milton?
Yeah, good. I mean, some days it's weird. Some days feel completely normal, and then other days you realize that you can't go into buildings or see people. But I mostly, I have a puppy, so my days are spent walking him, to be honest, and he's kind of keeping me sane right now without being able to go to the pool or without any other sense of normal.
Good. Well, I'm coming to you from Pescadero Beach in Northern California. That's from our trip to Far Westerns last year. I know this question wasn't really asked there, but last summer, instead of Far Westerns, you did what we did a couple years ago and went to Ireland. Want to just tell us a quick little synopsis or summary from the Ireland trip?
Yeah, it was awesome. Super cool meet, really good experience for the kids. Really glad we chose to do that last year. Just a really neat opportunity for them to get an international experience competing, something that so many of our kids won't get. So the ones that came with us on the trip really had an awesome time. And we went, there was a couple other Ontario teams there too with us, and we kind of banded together. So for my girls, where we come from a fairly small team, it was really fun for them to get kind of that big team travel experience.
Good. Well, speaking of California too, you guys were down there in Coronado, I think, over March break that had a very tight turnaround. Can you tell us about that, and did you get any training in or any decent training in? Or
So we left the Thursday before March break. And I think the announcement about school closures and that for Ontario pretty much all came while we were up in the air. So we landed and kind of found out a little bit more about what was going on. So the club made a decision that we then try to bring the kids back much quicker than we originally planned. So we got there Thursday and we left Saturday. But while we were there, we did get some training in. The weather was not good, to be honest, but we did swim. We did yards a lot. I'm a huge fan of yards, so we had some fun with that, some fast swimming for the kids. We basically, knowing that our trip was going to be super short, kind of threw out our original plans for practices. And I wasn't really worried about mileage and that kind of thing, especially not knowing what we were coming back to in terms of when we could be in a pool again. So we did some high quality stuff off the blocks and just some different stuff like that.
Cool. So you grew up in Saskatchewan, swimming with the Saskatoon Lasers and coaching for Regina Optimist Dolphins, and I think another team before that. Can you tell us about your career there, plus how swimming in Ontario kind of differs to out west?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's really different, but I'm sure it's even different being like in Milton in the GTA compared to even where you guys are, or, Thunder Bay. So even within Ontario, there's, huge differences. But so swimming, I swam for the Saskatoon Lasers, and then I worked for them for a few years before I moved to Regina and coached for the Rods. I think the biggest thing I noticed when I moved to Milton was every swim meet for us in Saskatchewan was a team travel meet. The closest city that we'd go compete in was like a 2.5 hour drive away. So everything was a team travel meet, lots of bus rides, just lots of that team bonding. And then moving here with the swim meets being local in a sense, right? There's a lot more put on the parents in terms of getting to and from the meets. So I think that was one of the biggest differences, just it was harder for me here to figure out how can I impact a team bonding and that kind of thing in the environment that we're in, if that makes sense.
Definitely. Since taking over the head coach responsibilities there, because you started out as the assistant head coach with the Marlins, what have been your most challenging issues that you've faced, and what are some of the changes and stuff you've made since you've taken over the club program?
Yeah, I think the biggest challenges for me was kind of a lot of the behind the scenes stuff, and just how much a lot of that can monopolize your time. So on deck, I didn't notice a huge difference, just the way that myself and Jamie, the previous head coach, had set up the program. We both coached a senior group, and both our senior groups had, trials, regionals, provincial swimmers in it. So performance-wise of what I coached and what I was doing on a day-to-day basis didn't have a huge change. The biggest change really for me and the challenges was just managing all that behind the scenes club operations and that kind of thing. Again, I didn't make huge changes when I came in as head coach 2 seasons ago, I guess it would be now. I know lots of times head coaches come in and they change logos and change group names and that kind of thing. But since I was already with the club and had a big say, just the way me and Jamie worked in how things ran, I didn't feel the need to do a complete overhaul. I think the biggest thing I did was we do still have 2 senior groups and we do still have 2 junior groups, but now they are divided a bit more based on performance. So we have all the provincial and above training in one group, and then the regionals in the other group. So that would be probably the biggest change I made when I came in.
Good. The last question really that I have for you here is just, during these times, what are you currently doing with your athletes, and what are your plans for the summer and fall kind of thing with the swimmers, and what advice or anything like that do you have to the kids that are out of the water and eager to get back in?
Yeah, so we were effectively shut down for the rest of the season. We did make that call. So what we're doing now, I'm sending out like weekly emails and suggestions for workouts. We're not doing live workouts together, just more sending out different resources, both workout wise or mental skills or that kind of thing. So that's how we're keeping in contact. We are going to set up some Zoom sessions with the kids just to give them that face-to-face contact that I'm sure a lot of them are missing, not getting to see their buddies, but just more of an informal kind of get-together with the groups just to keep them engaged. We are still looking at if we are able to get into the pool later in the summer. We haven't closed that door, but I don't really know what that will look like. I'm just kind of waiting to see when or if our pool opens and what we're able to do at that time. Right now we're planning for the fall like usual, but I think the one big thing I'm trying to think about right now is what that'll look like with the kids having been out of the water for about 5.5 months potentially, and how we ramp up or progress into their season, because it's definitely going to be different than what we're all used to, and what kind of different activities or strategies we can use for that, just to make sure that we stay healthy as we go into the season, injury wise and just everything wise, right? So planning's in the works. Don't have anything super firm yet. I guess my advice right now is just, the kids are usually so busy, right? They swim in the morning and they're in high school all day, and then they swim, and then I know most of my seniors then coach with our Learn to Swim program, so their days are super scheduled and jam-packed, and I'm sure some of them are probably missing that schedule a bit, right? But I think also that we're so good at saying, oh, I don't have time to stretch, or I don't have time to do my physio, or that kind of stuff. So I hope that they're taking advantage of some of this extra time and doing those little things that maybe they weren't so great at before, getting more involved in their own nutrition. I know I have one swimmer who her mom says she's now in charge of making, some of the meals every week, and that's getting her ready to go off to university. But just using this time to kind of focus in on those things that we always say we don't have time to do: stretching, physio, learning to cook, taking care of their own nutrition, that kind of thing.
Perfect. I got one little follow-up question here, bonus question that I didn't talk to you about before. But the one thing that I've loved over the years, working alongside you and Jamie at meets and stuff too, the Milton parents have always been huge and rowdy in the crowds for the meets and stuff too. Can you just tell us a little bit how you promote that and, how that's all come together?
Yeah, you're right. They're kind of crazy sometimes. That was something that definitely I noticed right away when I joined the team 7 years ago. It's definitely, I think, something that's been kind of part of their history and tradition. A big part of that was divisions. Back when that still was around, they were crazy at that. And then I think that just kind of, not crazy, they're just very spirited. And that kind of carried through to other swim meets and the culture of the team. I think that it's challenging as the team gets bigger. to maintain that. But something we've done the past few years is we do inter-meets, like inter-squad meets, and we have purple versus green. And not only are we encouraging the kids to come out like full of all their purple and green Dollarama purchases and like spirit items, but we really encourage parents to be part of that too. So it's something that I think has been a part of the team for a long time. And it's important and it's awesome. It's fun that, they're enjoying their time at the pool. If you're on the pool deck for 12 hours as to me, you may as well have some fun and some spirit in there too.
Well, that's awesome. Thank you so much for your time today. I think the athletes and parents, coaches, everyone watching these segments can get a lot out of this. So thank you very, very much for joining us.
Thank you.
All right, that's our show for this week. Thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you to Heather, Melissa, and Megan for joining us with some great interviews. Shout out to Leah and Emily for sending in their clip. If you have any musical or funny videos that you can contribute to the show, please send them to coachboats@gmail.com, and I'll be sure to include them in the upcoming segments. Before we get into the very big announcement, please send your 2-kilometer run in to Coach Kristen if you haven't already. This was the last week. Starting in May, we've got a new game planned. As well, be sure to join her live Instagram workouts Tuesday, Thursday, and Sunday. And now, the moment you've been waiting for, the big news. Next week, we're going to be joined by Alia Atkinson, the world record holder from Jamaica, as well as world champion Maggie McNeil will be on the show for some interviews. So be sure to tune in then. Thank you so much. Take care. Stay safe.
Stay safe. Wash your hands. Bye-bye.